In this op-ed, I am going to answer the question why brothers don't go after George Zimmerman. Now, since the George Zimmerman verdict when he was found not guilty in the murder of Trayvon Martin, it's been a recurring theme on these YouTube streets, particularly with Tommy Sotomayor or people of the Tommy Sotomayor vein to ask, well, you can go after me for having quote-unquote coonish talking points, but the black community won't go after George Zimmerman. And I would hear this again and again and again. And it seems like this question really has no answer to it, and no one's trying to answer the question. And I understand that it's a rhetorical one, but I'm going to answer it anyway because I feel that this question does merit an answer. Why don't brothers go after George Zimmerman? Now, I would hear this a lot, particularly when other content creators are talking about subjects that have to do with black on black crime or, street gangs or all that other stuff. Well, we could kill each other, but we can't go and hunt after George Zimmerman or Darren Wilson or such and such. And here's why brothers ain't going after George Zimmerman. With anyone, especially anybody out there that's a hunter or a tracker or has done some duty in the military, if you're going after a particular target, you pretty much have to know some basics. And what do I mean by basics? You have to know where's your target, you have to know their routine. You have to know where exactly they are in that particular area. And you have to know, are there other people around that target that will be a hindrance to you getting to that target? And the important thing you also have to know is that target armed as well? How much ammunition am I going to need against that target? Those are things that you're going to have to ask before you go after a particular target. And I'm just speaking hypotheticals. But if you was going to go after a person like this, you're going to have to do an extensive, I'm a loss for words here. Give me a minute, folks. But as I said, if you're going to go after a target like this, you're going to have to do some extensive research as to how you should get to this target and what will be the appropriate action if you find this target. Now, let me take it to the average gangbanger, thug, run-of-the-mill shooter type lane. Now, you're asking a Pookie, a Ray Ray, or a Cat in the Hood that pretty much is going to, they're good at shooting people within their own proximity, but you're asking that Cat in the Hood to leave their environment, go into another environment that they're unfamiliar with, and track and kill someone else. I think that's just too much to ask for somebody that's a thug and is about that life. Granted, they may not be a slouch as far as the gun game, the hand-to-hand game, and all that other stuff. But I want you guys to think critically about this. These gangbangers, these thugs, these rumble tumble type of niggas and all that, they're not warriors. They're not people that are made for those kind of missions or those kind of actions. So to ask them or to request that they go after George Zimmerman is just silly. It's just preposterous. And let me go and quote Avon Barksdale from The Wire when he was talking to Stringer Bell. There was a particular episode where Stringer Bell wanted to put a hit out on Clay Davis, and he went to Slim Charles to carry that out, and Slim Charles had some reservations by the tone of his voice, and he was like, "The Clay Davis?" And then when Avon Barksdale came in the room and was like, "If you shoot a cat like Clay Davis, you're going to attract a whole bunch of eyes on us." Now, Avon Barksdale, some people sleep on a person like that, but Avon Barksdale, he he was the smartest out of all of them in that. And I mean, not to take away from Stringer Bell. Stringer Bell had his own intelligence too, but Avon's intelligence was on a whole other level. He had people smarts. Whereas a person like String, he was more centered on books and money. He didn't have the people smarts or savvy like an Avon. And what Avon suggested to his boy Stringer was, if you want to get somebody like that, you're gonna need a Day in the Jackal type nigga. You ain't gonna use a rumble tumble nigga like Slim. So my point is this: you're asking rumble tumble, run of the mill thugs to go and hunt down a George Zimmerman when they're not cut out for that kind of mission. You might as well just strip on some dynamite on him and throw him off of a roof, because that's suicide right there. So, I mean, when I take a critical look at some of these questions, particularly at when these content creators are called out for their questionable talking points, and their modus operandi is to deflect to a George Zimmerman or to a drug dealer, I just have to question that. And that's not to defend the drug dealer or the gangbanger, because they're just as culpable in the downfall of our community as well. But just to say, well, you need to go look at George Zimmerman. How's this? You with the questionable talking points. Why don't you go hunt George Zimmerman since you suggested it? The gangbangers, they're out, quote unquote, killing each other on the streets and everything like that. They ain't thinking about George Zimmerman. You're the one that's thinking about George Zimmerman. In fact, I have a better idea, content creator with the questionable talking points. Why don't you go into some of these hoods and go and recruit an army of thugs to go and hunt George Zimmerman with you, since you suggested that, and let us know how that works out. In fact, why don't you take a GoPro camera so you can vlog and tell us how the hunt for George Zimmerman is going. I'm just saying. But in a nutshell, George Zimmerman is not going to be found unless George Zimmerman wants to be found. We do know that George Zimmerman is in Florida. Whereabouts is he in Florida is anybody's guess. And if my calculations are correct about certain places in Florida, he's probably in an area that's well guarded, too many eyes, and a lot of guns. So if you're gonna go into that sector of where George Zimmerman is, you best come prepared, come armed. And chances are, if you get George Zimmerman, you may not get out of that situation intact. Now you'll probably be shot by other people who are defending George Zimmerman, or you're probably just going to be locked up. So if you want to take that gamble right there, you're more than willing to. But the only way to find a person like a George Zimmerman is if he wants to be found. And for the most part, a George Zimmerman pretty much just wants to be found online. You ain't going to find a George Zimmerman walking down the streets of Orlando or chilling at some club in South Beach. That's not going to happen. He's not going to be up in Times Square where he can easily be seen. Nope. He's going to be in a small redneck, maybe trailer parkish type of area where nobody could find him. No one would suspect where he is or who he is. And if they do find him, he's armed and he has people around him who are armed. So that is my editorial about why the warrior class, or the so-called warrior class, is not looking for George Zimmerman. And okay, let me come back with a PS on that ass, like Mad Bus Driver X would say. I heard or read somewhere that the new Black Panther Party had a contract on George Zimmerman. But so far, no one has, collected on that contract. And contracts, you know how the contracts go. It's based on if he pops up and someone gets him. So, but anyway, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. One love.